literally lights up the entire surface of the earth. I mean, we aren't talking about the sun rising. We're not talking about a nuclear flash. We are talking about a single figure, an angel descending from heaven with so much authority, so much glory that his presence just illuminates the planet.
Yeah.
That is the cinematic opening of the text we're looking at today.
It really is a striking image to start with, and it sets the stage perfectly because we're not just talking about, a minor historical event here. We're doing a deep dive into Revelation chapter 18.
Yeah.
This is the moment where the plain sense of the text describes the total, irreversible collapse of a global superpower.
Babylon the Great.
Babylon the Great.
And looking at our stack of sources today, we've got commentaries, some really interesting Greek word studies. The text itself, this doesn't feel like just a story about an ancient city.
Not at all.
It feels more like a forensic analysis of a global system's destruction. We've got economics, politics, corruption, and a reaction that just splits the universe in two.
How so?
Well, the earth is mourning, but heaven is rejoicing.
That's the core tension right there. So the mission for this deep dive is to unpack exactly what happens. We need to look at the what, the why, and like you said, the reaction to this judgment.
Right.
Our source material focuses really heavily on the text itself and on the meanings of some specific Greek words used to describe this collapse. It's about understanding the anatomy of how a system built against God, well, how it actually falls.
So let's get right into it. The angel lands, the earth lights up, and he makes this massive announcement. He cries out with a mighty voice, Babylon the Great is fallen, is fallen.
Yeah.
Why say it twice?
The repetition, fallen is fallen,
What?
that's distinct. It signifies certainty.
Okay.
In the ancient context, this isn't a prediction that it might happen. It's not a warning. It's a declaration of finality. It's as if it's already happened in the mind of God.
It's done.
This system is done. But what's fascinating to me, looking at the notes here, is what the text says happens to the city after the fall.
Right. I was reading that section, and it reads like a script for a post-apocalyptic horror movie.
It really does.
It's not just that the buildings fall down. It says it becomes a dwelling place of demons, a prison for every foul spirit, and a cage for every unclean and hated bird.
It's like the city goes from being the height of global luxury to a haunted wasteland overnight.
Exactly.
And the specific language there matters.
Wow.
That word prison is really important. The Greek word used is phylako.
Phylako. Okay, let's unpack that.
Right. It implies confinement, a guarding or a holding place.
A holding place.
Yeah. So the source suggests that Babylon becomes a sort of containment zone for evil entities. It's no longer an active force in the world. It's a cage.
Wow.
And this reveals a terrifying truth about the system itself. Underneath all that beauty, the commerce, the luxury we see earlier, it was always a mask.
So the collapse just rips the mask off.
Precisely. The fall reveals the spiritual reality that was there the whole time. The source notes that the demonic influence driving the world's corruption is finally exposed for what it is.
So it was a home for demons all along.
All along. Now, without the glitter of wealth to hide it, that's all that is left.
That is a disturbing thought. But the text does give us the reason why this is all happening. It talks about this wine of the wrath of her fornication.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
It is, but the imagery is potent. It says the nations have drunk this wine.
It's describing intoxication. I mean, think about what wine does. It lowers inhibitions. It alters your perception of reality.
Makes you do things you wouldn't normally do.
Right. And the source breaks this down into three distinct groups that were seduced by this system. First, you have the nations. They drank the wine.
Okay.
This represents spiritual and moral corruption on a mass level. They didn't just witness it. They internalized it. They got drunk on the influence.
So the nations of the general populace. Then you have the kings of the earth.
The political leaders. The text says they committed fornication with her. And we're not talking about physical acts here.
No, this is about political and spiritual alliances.
That's it. They compromised their principles to get in bed with this global power structure. Traded integrity for power.
And the third group, and this is the one we'll spend a lot of time on later, is the merchants of the earth.
The economic engine. The text says they became rich through the abundance of her luxury. And here is where it gets really interesting in the Greek.
Go on.
The word used for abundance there is dunamis.
Dunamis. I feel like I've heard that before. Doesn't that usually mean power? Like where we get the word dynamite?
You nailed it. Usually in the New Testament, dunamis is translated as miraculous power or strength. But here it's translated as abundance of luxury.
So her luxury wasn't just stuff? It was a power.
That's the insight. Her wealth exercised a powerful, almost forceful influence over the nations. The merchants weren't just selling goods, they were tapping into a source of power that drove the global economy.
So in this system, materialism acts as a force.
It pushes people, it pulls them, it controls policy. But because that power was built on corruption, when the judgment comes, it takes everything down with it.
And right in the middle of this description of corruption, there's a sudden interruption. A different voice comes from heaven with a very specific, very urgent command.
Come out of her, my people.
Right.
This is the command to separate. And notice it addresses my people. This implies that there are believers, righteous people, who are currently entangled in this Babylon system.
They're living inside the blast zone.
Exactly. And it seems like a hard thing to do, right? If the system is where the money is, where the dunamis is, leaving, it sounds
Incredibly difficult.
But the source explains there are two very practical reasons given. It's not just leave because I said so. First, lest you share in her sins.
Association leads to contamination.
It rubs off on you. You can't stay inside a corrupt system without eventually becoming part of it.
And the second reason?
Lest you receive of her plagues. This is about collateral damage. When judgment falls on the system, it falls on everyone inside the system.
A spatial warning.
Yeah. If you're in the building when it's demolished, you get demolished too. The source frames this as a timeless spiritual principle. Don't be joined to a world system that is under judgment.
The text then uses this incredible imagery to describe why the judgment is happening now. It says her sins have reached to heaven.
That is a very specific visual. The Greek word is kolnao. It literally means glued together or piled up.
Like a tower.
Heaped like a tower.
Wait, glued together like bricks? Is that a reference to something?
Think back to Genesis.
The Tower of Babel.
Exactly. The source makes that connection explicitly.
Yeah.
In Genesis, humanity tried to build a tower to heaven in rebellion. Here, Babylon's sins have finally constructed that tower.
It's a monument to wickedness that's piled up so high, God can no longer ignore it.
It's reached the ceiling, so to speak.
And because that tower is finished, the bill comes due.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to be honest, the billing department seems pretty aggressive here. Repay her double, according to her works. Repay her double. That might sound vindictive to some listeners.
It can sound that way, yeah. But we have to understand the legal context of the time. The source clarifies this. Double here implies full, complete, perfect justice.
So it's not unfair access.
Not at all. In ancient law, if you stole something, often the restitution was double. You return what you stole plus a penalty.
So it's not revenge, it's balancing the scales.
Right. The text says, in the cup which she has mixed, mix double for her. She mixed a cup of deception and oppression for the nations. Now she has to drink that same cup, fully realize.
It's a mirror of her own actions.
Turned right back on her. And what strikes me is the attitude of Babylon right up until the end. While her sins are piling up to heaven, what is she saying to herself?
I sit as queen and am no widow and will not see sorrow.
That is the definition of hubris. Total delusion. That phrase, I am no widow, is fascinating. It means she thinks she's secure in her own power.
She doesn't need protection.
No, she doesn't need a husband. She doesn't need God. She has self-sovereignty.
It sounds like the too big to fail mentality.
That is exactly what it is. The source highlights the contrast here. This arrogance happens immediately before sudden destruction. She thinks she's at her peak.
Right when she's about to hit rock bottom. And when you say sudden, the text really emphasizes speed. It doesn't seem like a slow decline.
No, it's not a slow bleed.
Verse 8 says her plagues come in one day, and then later, multiple times, in 1 hour.
That's the shock factor. We're talking about an economic and political collapse that happens so fast the world can't even process it.
Death, mourning, famine, fire.
All in one day. The source notes that this isn't a recession. It's not a bear market. It is an instant divine stroke. The world's mightiest empire is revealed to be powerless.
So the system crashes. The tower falls. And now we get to the reaction. And this is one of the most vivid parts of the chapter because we see 3 distinct groups mourning.
But they aren't mourning for the right reasons, are they?
No, not at all. And this is where the text gets really cynical. It exposes the selfishness of the world. Let's look at the kings first.
The world leaders.
Right. The text says they stand at a distance for fear of her torment.
They stand at a distance. That stood out to me too. They don't try to help.
They don't send fire trucks.
No. They can't, or they won't.
Oh, good.
They're terrified. They see the smoke. They cry out, alas, alas. But they keep their distance because they're afraid the judgment might jump onto them.
It's a very selfish kind of mourning.
Yeah, they're just focused on their own survival.
Then we move to the merchants. And
Yeah.
this This is where we really see the heart of the issue. The merchants weep and mourn, but the reason given is chillingly practical.
For no one buys their merchandise anymore.
Exactly. It is purely financial grief. It's not moral repentance. They're crying because the market just crashed to zero.
Their customers are gone.
And the text gives us this inventory list of what they were selling. It reads like a luxury catalog: gold, silver, precious stones, pearls.
The hard assets.
Then fine linen, purple, silk, and scarlet.
High-end fashion.
Then every kind of citron wood, ivory, bronze, iron, marble.
Construction, luxury furniture, raw industrial goods. It's comprehensive.
It goes on and on. Cinnamon, incense, fragrant oil, wine, oil, fine flour, wheat, cattle, sheep, horses, chariots.
It represents extreme wealth, elite lifestyles. It's a global luxury trade. But you have to keep reading down that list. It goes through all those commodities. And then right at the very end of verse 13, it hits you with the most shocking item on the manifest.
Bodies and souls of men.
That stops you in your tracks.
It really does. I mean, we're scrolling through gold and silver, and then suddenly human beings are listed as cargo.
The source is very clear on this. This refers to human trafficking, forced labor, slavery. But notice the phrasing, bodies and souls.
Yeah, why the distinction?
It implies total ownership. It shows the system wasn't just about selling nice things. It was built on exploitation. It treated people as commodities.
The bodies and souls distinction is chilling. It's total dehumanization.
It's the luxury that the kings and merchants enjoyed, the silk, the wine, was paid for by the consumption of human lives.
It puts the mourning of the merchants in a totally different light. They are standing there weeping because they can't sell people anymore.
Precisely. It exposes the absolute moral bankruptcy of the system. They are worried about their bottom line while the world burns.
That is heavy. And finally, the third group, the shipmasters, the transport industry.
The supply chain. They see the smoke, they throw dust on their heads, an ancient sign of deep mourning, and they cry out.
Why?
Because in 1 hour, such great riches came to nothing. The entire maritime trade network halts. For all three groups, kings, merchants, shipmasters, the focus is on the sudden loss of wealth and power.
In 1 hour, it's all gone.
Gone.
So you have this chorus of grief coming from the earth. Alas, alas. But then the camera pans up. Verse 20 gives a command to a different audience.
Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you holy apostles and prophets.
A sharp contrast. Earth weeps. Heaven rejoices.
And we have to be clear, this isn't petty gloating. It's not heaven laughing at suffering. The text says, for God has avenged you on her.
It's about justice.
It's about justice. This system had persecuted the righteous, killed the prophets. Now the scales are finally balanced. A world without justice is terrifying. This is the moment justice finally arrives.
And to symbolize this finality, we get this action movie moment. A mighty angel picks up a stone, like a great millstone, and throws it into the sea.
The millstone imagery is heavy with meaning. A millstone was massive. It represents industry, food production, daily life.
The sound of a working city.
Yeah, but here it's used as a weapon of destruction. The angel throws it violently into the ocean. Splash. Gone.
And the angel says, thus with violence the great city Babylon shall be thrown down and shall not be found anymore.
That phrase, not be found anymore, just echoes through the rest of the chapter. It's the theme of total erasure.
Not just damaged, deleted.
Deleted. And what follows is this haunting description of silence.
I want to read a bit of this because it's so evocative. It lists all the things that are suddenly missing. The sound of harpists, musicians, flutists, and trumpeters shall not be heard in you anymore.
The music dies. The entertainment, the culture, the art, all of it, gone.
No craftsman of any craft shall be found in you anymore.
Industry and manufacturing cease. The economy is dead.
The light of a lamp shall not shine in you anymore.
Darkness. The city that was once full of light is now pitch black.
And the voice of bridegroom and bride shall not be heard in you anymore.
That's the saddest part for me. That represents the future. Family, joy, the continuation of life, it's all cut off.
It's a civilization that has been completely turned off. But why? I mean, we talked about the luxury and the pride, but the text gives a final summary of the charges against her. Two big things stand out.
First, sorcery.
All right, verse 23 says, for by your sorcery all the nations were deceived. The Greek word there is pharmakeia.
Pharmakeia, that sounds like pharmacy.
It is where we get the word. It can mean drugs, potions, spells. The source defines it as occult influence or deceptive power.
The idea that the nations were spiritually drugged or manipulated by this system.
So the population wasn't thinking clearly.
No, they were under a spell of materialism, false religion, distraction, sedated by luxury.
And the second charge is even darker. It's blood guilt.
Verse 24, and in her was found the blood of prophets and saints and of all who were slain on the earth.
All who were slain. That is a massive accusation. It sounds hyperbolic.
It does, but it is the ultimate condemnation. The source suggests this system, this Babylon, is the root cause of global violence and persecution against God's people throughout history.
It's not just a city. It's the engine of martyrdom.
It creates the wars, it creates the persecution, and that is why the judgment is so severe. You don't reform a system like that, you end it.
So let's pull this all together. We started with a queen who thought she was invincible. I sit as queen, I will see no sorrow. And in 1 hour, she is a smoking ruin.
A home for demons and a place of absolute silence. It is the ultimate story of reversal.
And the big takeaway here seems to be the fragility of any system built in opposition to God.
Exactly. It can look impressive, it can feel permanent, it can generate immense wealth, but the source drives home the point that everything built against God eventually ends in ruin and emptiness.
It doesn't matter how too big to fail it looks.
If the foundation is corrupt, the collapse is inevitable.
It brings us back to that command we discussed earlier. Come out of her. It's a warning not to get too comfortable in a building that has been condemned.
Exactly. Don't invest your soul in a system that is destined to burn. It challenges you, the listener, to evaluate where your security really lies. Is it in the luxury of Babylon or something that survives the fire?
You know, looking back over this whole chapter, the image that is going to stick with me from this deep dive isn't the fire or the angel with the millstone. It's that inventory list.
The merchandise.
Yeah. We scroll through the gold, the silver, the ivory, and we just gloss over it because it sounds like success. It sounds like the things we see every day. But then we hit the bottom line.
Bodies and souls of men.
And forces you to ask a very uncomfortable question.
Right.
It makes you wonder, when we look at the luxury and abundance in our world, what is the actual cost? If we could see the spiritual receipt for the things the world values, would we find souls listed on the invoice?
That is a profound thought. The text warns us that a system built on excess often feeds on humanity itself. It consumes people to sustain its lifestyle. And Revelation 18 is the promise that, eventually, that bill gets paid.
A lot to think about. That is Revelation chapter 18, the fall of Babylon. Thanks for diving in with us.
Glad to be here.